Hey everybody, we'll get started in a little bit. Hey Joanne, how you doing?
Hi, Eric. How are you?
Doing great.
Good.
How about yourself?
I am good now. Thanks.
Hi,
Awesome.
Eric.
Hey Shy, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. I just got a little background music. Usually people come in like right on time or like 2 minutes after that. So I'm
Okay.
going to actually hit mute and stop my camera. But once people trickle in, then we'll get started.
Okay. No problem.
All right, welcome everybody. Thank you all that are attending. I see that we have 17 viewers on YouTube, and then we also have 20 people on this call right now. So we have some more people joining. We have about 40 people right now. That's awesome. Welcome everybody. Now, typically, this is the asset recovery group, which is on Facebook, and we do these calls Monday and Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern time. It is subject to change like today. Today, I have a special guest. I have Shai with Skipmatrix. So today we're going to go over skip tracing for surplus funds, and she's going to share how amazing their skip tracing service is. I've been using Skipmatrix for about a year now. I use it with my call center. I actually closed a few deals today, and it's all because of the accurate data on Skipmatrix, plugging it into the CRM on XS Elite, automating marketing, and then closing more deals. So we're definitely going to discuss how you guys should be implementing this data when you receive accurate information. We'll go over, marketing practice, how you can effectively skip trace, and then how to initially close more deals towards the end of the call. So the members that are joining from the Facebook group, we always start off with questions. We're actually going to start with the introduction with Shy, and we'll get started with the lesson. And then at the end, you guys can ask questions and you can get anything that you want answered later on in the call. So, Shy, welcome. Thank you for attending the
Hi.
call. We have
Yeah,
about
no problem.
Yeah,
No
we have
problem. Thank
about
you for
50
having
people
me.
on the call right now. Yes.
Yeah, it's a little late for me. I never work this late on the computer. I usually try to like take it to pen and paper.
Mhm.
This is awesome. I love this whole
Yeah,
setup
late
we have here.
meetings,
This is
it's
great.
good. We appreciate you taking the time. So for
Yeah.
those of you who are out there and do not know who Shy is, Shy, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Shay Coolborn. I am the COO and co-founder of Skipmatrix. My husband and I founded Skipmatrix back in 2020, and we started off in wholesaling. We were in the San Diego market, and it was very competitive. It was kind of a mess. It was like us just trying to fight our way to the top, try to figure out what was best practices, and obviously data was king. But the data that we were finding was so bad, like really bad, and I felt like we were spending so much money on data that honestly just wasn't getting us anywhere. And so just us kind of being problem solvers and trying to find the root of the cause and trying to figure out where we were at with, like trying to find where the good data is, I guess. We ended up finding sources of the data that had larger volume. And so we were like, all right, well, if we're the ones having this issue, I know for a fact there are people out there that also have the same issue. And so we decided to start Skipmatrix as an all-in-one solution, and it kind of just blew up.
Yeah.
And it's great. And honestly, the amount of people that we've helped and the amount of information that we've ended up learning from this journey, just understanding the industry, understanding what's valuable, just kind of seeing the nuances that as a wholesaler, honestly, like or even in surplus or just as a consumer of data, you don't really understand it until you're on the back end. And all that value has brought us so many solutions to put into our own company for other people, and it's been amazing.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And it's awesome that you have gone through wholesaling, so you know what it's like to get data that's incorrect. And in our industry with surplus funds, we rely so much on having an accurate phone number because we can do our research, we can see properties that sell for a higher amount and have a surplus, but if we can't get a hold of them, it's pretty much useless. So we have to initially
Yeah,
become like private investigators. I always tell them, go the extra mile, search on social media. We'll find people on Facebook or, check different platforms. And when it came to skip tracing, there was so many services out there that, you might get a good hit every now and then. We might call
yeah,
200 people and maybe get 3 people on the phone, and who knows if
yeah,
it's accurate. So when I
yeah,
got introduced
exactly.
to Skip Matrix, I was told like, hey, I promise you use this company, you're gonna see an increase in your hit rate. So I was like, man, I hear that all
Yeah,
the time with skip
yeah,
tracing, like, but I'll give it a shot. I gave you guys a shot immediately. That first week, I started
yeah,
getting more people responding back to the messages, getting people on the phone, and it was just accurate data. So the fact that
yeah,
you guys are going to multiple sources, that's awesome. For
yeah.
anybody who's watching this call and doesn't know about it, can you share with them like how you guys get your data?
Yeah, so we are sourcing the data from multiple reliable sources. So you have the data and like the skip tracing side of it all as a foundation, obviously. But before we feed it into the skip tracing side, we have to have the data itself clean and up to date and accurate. And that's what a lot of people like that is a major oversight. So what ends up happening is that a lot of people will pull county data, which is massively subject to human error and just honestly being a complete disaster when it comes to the formatting. So a lot of them don't even come with property addresses. It's like APNs and weird codes and stuff, right? So then you probably will end up either trying to format it yourself or hiring a VA to do it. And it's just extra time and money being wasted. So what we specialize in is being white glove from start to finish. We take your data, and with the untrained eye, you would get a file and be like, this looks fine. Like, this is good for skip tracing. You'll send it in. And if you have like a API that you're running it through on your own, you might get a low hit rate and be like, oh, the skip tracing company is the problem, right? But the problem with that is if you are untrained and don't understand what good data should look like, you're going to look at a file as a trained professional and see, the formatting is different for every county in the entire United States, or there's a state APN and there's a county APN, and then people will submit a county APN instead of the state, and it doesn't get any hits. The names will be all in one column. They won't separate them properly. Things like this. It's small little nuances that what we do with the service is we separate everything for you and format it perfectly. And then once that is input into our system, we update the mailing address for you. So let's just say the deed for John Smith is 123 Main Street. That's where they're receiving mail. But through the USPS National Change of Address, they're now receiving mail at 246 Main Street, but it's not updated on the deed. We now have that information, which now that mailing address is now associated to a more up-to-date and even a new phone number that hasn't even been really picked up by many other sources. So the importance of a clean format and an up-to-date mailing address is imperative. And a lot of these companies, they set it up more for efficiency as opposed to quality. And so they set up these APIs and apps for people to run their own data, but they're not formatting it properly. They're not updating it on the back end. It's a one and done, one source skip tracing process. And with us, it's a waterfall system. We put in the data, we format it first, put in the data, update the mailing addresses and the names and even the ownership if you're not confident in the owner information you're providing us with. Then that goes into our skip tracing process, which is a 3-step skip tracing process on its own. So we have 3 different ways that we're skip tracing the data to provide you with the most information possible. And then within that data, it comes back with not just the owner information, but you're getting deceased flags, vacancy flags, bankruptcy information, which are all motivators, right? And then you also get, if they're deceased, you can utilize the relatives, which we give you up to 5 relatives, 5 associates, which associates are like neighbors, distant cousins, associates at work, things like that, people that they knew further out into the web, but they're still associated in some way. So there's a lot that comes back with the data, and breaking it down, the amount of possibilities and opportunities that you have to get a hold of somebody is nearly infinite. Like, we give you 120 different points of contact per lead. And there's not one other skip tracing service out there that does that on the level that we have built it. So we did that on purpose.
Yeah, exactly. And having the relatives information is crucial. My call center,
Especially in your,
we closed a deal in California today, and we were able to speak to the son of the property owner. And if all we did was skip trace the property owner, we would have never, we called the property owner, all the, 5 numbers that were listed, nobody answered. Move on to the relative. Now they answer. Now they actually had power of attorney over the property owner. So it was perfect. But I've had situations where, somebody's deceased. We work with the relative. They put us in contact with the correct person. And that's how you deal. Yeah. So that's awesome. You guys have that as well.
Yeah. And we also have a relationship detail in there now. I don't know if you saw that in your data today, but we now list whether it's a spouse, a sister, a brother, a child, even a in-law. So you'll be able to see exactly who you're contacting and what the relation is between the subject and the relative now, or even the associates. So it is very, very powerful if you know how to use the data. And the problem is there's so much over education on the beginning parts of business and wholesaling and like even surplus funds and things like that, and solar. There's all this very elementary level information, but what they don't really expand on is how to use the data to go deeper. And that's where I find a fundamental issue with teaching people. And that's why I really like what you're doing right now is you're actually teaching people about the data, how to use it, and you're going deep, you're digging deep. And that's why like doing like niche lists and stuff, I think is phenomenal when people know how to really niche down and focus, because that's where you can go to the higher hanging fruit. And though it's a little harder to get there, the payoff is so much bigger. Because when
Yeah.
you're low hanging fruit, those people are probably getting harassed and they're pissed off and they're changing their numbers and they're blocking people and suing people. And
Mhm.
it's not cohesive for, on a mass scale. So you have to start getting a little more creative and a little more detailed and strategic with how you try to get a hold of people. And if you can build rapport and contact a relative and know that it's the son or a daughter, and get in that way through a referral that you built a rapport with, and that way it's like there's a triangle of connection there, if you're not getting hold of the subject themselves directly.
Yeah. So let's talk about the platform with Skipmatrix. How does it work?
Mhm.
For those who have no idea about it, how do they come on the platform? What are you guys looking for? Is there any minimum amount of data that you guys need to be skip traced? What's the cost? That's what everybody's looking for right now.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So it's super simple. We are considered a white glove skip tracing, so there's really nothing that you need to do other than just submit the file. So you would go to our website, click get started, fill out the first name, last name, email address, phone number, and upload your file. As far as a minimum,
Okay,
we
I'll talk
do
to you
ask
later.
for, huh?
No, sorry, somebody's microphone was unmuted.
Oh, it's okay. So we do have a 100 record minimum that we ask for just so people can get the most bang for their buck. But I know that there are times where people they need like 50 records or 75 records done right then and there because there's like pre-foreclosures or it's time sensitive. So we do have like that $15 flat fee, but we do encourage you to do more just so you're not paying more per record technically. But if you need something done and it's less than 100 records, totally fine. But as far as pricing, we base off of volume. So I know that you have a code, and so everybody will be able to reap that benefit. So that's great. So the maximum amount of money or maximum price that you would pay is 14 cents per hit, meaning for each record that is matched, that is all that you pay for, but you pay up front for, let's just say, for example, 100 records, you would pay the $14 at 14 cents per hit. And then once we're done processing it, and we deliver it, we'll refund you for anything that was missed that we could not obtain a match for. And that's broken down in
Which
like
is
in an
great.
email, kind of like a report. And then
Mhm.
you get a safe direct link to your files, and everything's cloud-based. So if you need any changes done to it or anything, you see something you needed to be added, we can go in, change it, and it reflects on your cloud-based account.
Mhm. And then on the 14 cents per hit, when you get a hit, how many phone numbers are you receiving for that? Are you receiving relatives? How does that work?
Yeah, so for every single record, you're getting up to 5 phone numbers and emails for the subjects themselves. You get a validated mailing address and property address. And with both addresses, you're getting vacancy flags. So you'll be able to see if each address is, even being like lived in right now. And those flags are coming directly from the USPS. And then you'll also get deceased flags and bankruptcy flags, or bankruptcy information. So you'll see like the last time somebody filed for bankruptcy and what chapter it was and if it was closed and like what that ruling was. So you'll see all of that on there. And then that's more so just all for the subjects. And then past the subjects, it starts with the relatives, first and
Mhm.
last name, mailing address, and the phone numbers and the email. So up to 5 per relative. So we give you 5 relatives, but for each one of those people, you'll get up to 5 phone numbers and emails for each. And then the same goes for the affiliates. The associates. And then we also split up the mobiles and the landlines for you. So if you're doing like a phone type specific
Exactly.
campaign, we split it up for you. So you don't have to do any of the legwork, and it's done for you out of courtesy. And then if you do larger volume, the pricing goes down also. So it starts at 14 cents per hit, but based on the tier of how many records you're submitting, it's going to go down in price. But no matter what the price is, all of that information, plus us like formatting it for you, processing it for you, answering any questions, it's all included in the price.
Yeah, so you guys, your data, like I'll say this again, guys who are watching this, looks like we have about 100 people on the call in total between YouTube and Zoom. I've used other
Awesome.
platforms, been verified, Intellius, True People Search, White Pages, all of these other skip tracing providers. Not only do you have to put manual labor, okay, if you're skip tracing that, you're typing it individually, you're looking at the records from the county site, you're going in, you're doing all of that work, or maybe you might shift it off to a VA that's going to do it. The fact that Skipmatrix is doing all of that at 14 cents per hit, and we're going to get a discount code with code surplus, you're saving time and effort, and you're getting more accurate data. So now it really comes down to knowing what to do with this data. So, like she mentioned, you now have an up-to-date mailing address. So for those of you who send mailers in this business, that's awesome because now we can see, hey, this is an address that they have on file that's most current for their mailing address. So now if you send mailers, you already know if you're just sending to the property that was foreclosed, you're getting a return mail, or you might find something on Skiptracing incorrect. So, you know, the time, the money, and then the accurate data is well worth it for this service.
Absolutely. And another thing that we have really tried to place emphasis on is everyone that works for us is an in-house American trained by myself professional. So they are not outsourced. There's no language barrier. They are very competent. They understand the situation. If you have any type of a question, and not only are they trained on our data thoroughly, but they also are trained on specific industries, solar, real estate, and now surplus funds. So that's something that we are training them on to understand. So if there's any questions that's industry specific, we can dig deeper. And I've trained my people to make sure that if somebody calls and they have a question, even if we have to spend 30 to 45 minutes to an hour on the phone with someone to make sure that they understand the data, they can open the file, they can acquaint themselves with the data points, they feel confident going forward and using the data. I've even hopped on calls myself with people and ensure that they feel comfortable, because it is overwhelming for people who are not used to it. A lot of people are used to very generic products that come with maybe 3 phone numbers and 1 email. And it's just not, it's not robust enough. But when they receive our data, they have 480 columns worth of data, a lot. And so they look at that and they're like, I don't know what to do. So they feel super overwhelmed. And so they only end up using like 1 or 2 phone numbers, and they leave the rest of the meat on the bone because they're intimidated, right? So that's what we're here for. We have 5-star customer support. We are very trained, very competent. Call, text, chat, email, whatever you need, we're there. And we will make sure that you're set up for success always.
Yeah, you guys are like so responsive. And I remember I told you I thought it was AI because the messages were going so fast. And then the image of the girl, I thought that she was fake, but she's actually a real person. Allie's amazing. She's great. So yeah, you guys
is my rock star.
Yeah, top-notch customer
great.
service. We had somebody in the chat on YouTube say if they have a pre-made list that already has all of the information with the surplus amount, can I send it to them? And they just finished the list. Yes, absolutely. So that's how I do it. I actually have a format for Skipmatrix that's compatible with Excess Elite CRM and surplus systems, where it's going to say the relationship to the property, it's going to say the surplus amount, the sale date, the opening bid, the final sale, the case number, type of foreclosure, all of the important information we need and specifics for surplus funds. Then I take what Skipmatrix needs, like the owner's name, the mailing address, phone type, phone number 1, phone number 2, 3, 4, 5, relative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have it in that CSV file and it's uploaded, and then I receive it back, and then boom, it just gets dumped right into the CRM. and
Yep.
all of the data, like I pull up the information in the CRM, and I have everything to have an educated conversation with the client.
Yep, exactly. And you can submit a file in multiple ways also. So if you're equipped with the first and last name, mailing address, city, state, and zip, and the property, street, city, state, and zip, that's great. Those are our technical default required columns that we do need. But for if some reason, let's just say in a unique use case, you pull a county file and it doesn't have any of that owner information, but it does have a property address, a partial one even at that, like just the street, city, and state, we can actually use that. And if you don't have even the property address and you only have an APN or a parcel ID, we can use that with the county and the state. And we can append all of the owner information up to date, current with the county information, pull that for you, give you a property profile report that also comes back with property attributes like bed, bath, square footage, garage, deck, if there's been any,
Yeah, if we needed that
assessed value,
information.
anything like that. Yeah. So it's great information if you want that kind of report. So that's actually pulled separate and included in the file for you. But in the result, all the required columns are going to be in there for you. And then you can add on top of the 10 required columns for the name, mailing address, and property address, you can add an additional 10 custom columns and we'll keep those in there for you. So we try to make it as flexible for you as possible.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then for the chat, we have two questions. Somebody said, what about target contacts in Canada or other countries? Are you guys able to locate them?
So we are typically just in the like US territories right now. I don't think we have plans anytime soon to reach out into like Canada, Mexico, like other countries right now, because that's more difficult as far as like
Retrieving the
compliance and
data,
like
yeah.
regulation. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's a little different because you have to remember data is very it's sensitive information, and a lot of people leave America to have different laws and different privacy. So if you're retrieving that information and using it as the same as you would for people in America, it's a little bit different. For I think Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. So I believe Puerto Rico is fine since it is an American province, but Virgin Islands I know is too, but I've actually never been asked that question before, and I've never seen an address for the Virgin Islands. So I could actually look into that for you and get a better answer for you for that.
Awesome. We also had Victoria DC a question about 100 records, clarification on that.
Let me see. Let me see. No, I did not see that. Where was that? Oh, I see. Clarification. We submit 100 records, all the data, and you return 5 hit per roll. So 5. So you're returning 500 records. Okay, so if you gave us a list of, let's say, 500 records and you only got back 5 hits, I would refund you for everything. But our 100 record minimum would be fine. We refund you for that. But if it was less than 100 records, let's just say it's before, I think what you're asking is that if you put in 100 records or less than 100 records and it's a flat $14 minimum and you only get back like 5 records, would we still charge you for the full $14? No, like we would take a look at that and be like, okay, there's something seriously wrong here. Because I've trained my staff to see if there's a mass amount of duplicates in the file before we process it and let the customer know, like, hey, just so you know, because this is also a thing, we do not suppress and manage in file for previously processed duplicate records. This is not something we do. So you have to make sure to remove all of that information and manage that on your side prior to submitting the file so that you can avoid being charged twice for a record you already skip traced or going to skip trace. So if in the same bubble, if you submitted a whole bunch of duplicates and we noticed that, but also if you got a really, really low hit rate on a file, we're also trained to go and take a look deeper into what's going on there. Is it a formatting issue? Is the data just not working? Is our system not working? Like, we will dig into that for you and make sure that we get down to the bottom of like what's going on there, because that's a reflection on us. But that's never happened. So, but if it did, we would make sure that it was done well.
It said, is it possible to see a demo of Skipmatrix? I guess it would be on the file submission, because data is going to take 24 hours to return.
Yeah, so we ask for 1 business day, but typically we aim to completely finish and process a file within less than an hour of payment after payment is received. So we ask for that 1 business day because, one, there are weekends. We do not work on the weekends. So if you submit your file at 6 o'clock when we close EST, obviously that's going to take 1 business day to get it back over to you. But if you submit your file on a Tuesday morning, we open, you pay, we'll get it back to you within less than an hour. So it just is kind of subjective. There's also like technical difficulties sometimes. If we're trying to work with you on a file and figure out what's going on there, obviously, like, it can take sometimes up to a day to figure all that out. So that's what that is there for.
So with Skipmatrix, I can show you guys how it works when we submit the claim, the file, and then I'll show you the email. I can't open the data, but I can show you guys where the results come back and say, oh, we matched with 96%. But yeah, we just click on get started, and then you're going to fill out your information. Phone number, email address. This is the email address where you guys send the results back to. How did you hear about us? Isn't there no referral? We'll say YouTube. Referral code, yes. Surplus.
Yeah.
And then you just upload your CSV file. Now
you can upload up to 10 per day in one file submission.
Oh, in one file. That's awesome. I'm going to show you guys what the template looks like for Skipmatrix on the surplus fund side. Let me just go ahead and clear out the information 1 second. If anybody else
yeah,
has
I
a
see.
while I'm pulling this up, we can go ahead and go over that.
Yeah, I see a question here about if Skipmatrix will ever develop an internal API to expand and integrate with other external systems, such as surplus systems. So yes, we are working on developing an API, but what I will say is, because we're not trying to white label anything, I don't know if it will be public facing for other platforms unless it's branded by Skipmatrix, because we're in the middle of developing Lead Matrix, which is going to be an all-in-one inclusive CRM that is going to be list pulling, skip tracing, like marketing, mail houses, like everything you can possibly think of from A to Z as far as deal and like contact management. It's going to be on there. So that's what that is being made for, but I just don't know if it'll be available to the public.
Perfect. But when you do have it, we'll be the first to let you guys know. All right.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
This is the template here. We have the surplus amount, closing bid, opening bid, date sold, case number, parcel number, type of foreclosure, first name, last name, mailing address. Then basically all the rest of this counts as one hit, correct? So if we have one,
yes,
and that's here, John Smith, that's one hit to have all of this data.
480 columns worth of data. It's a lot of information.
Yeah. That was one of the questions in the YouTube. So
yes.
That's awesome. And then so you guys can see, this is the email you'll get back. So I got a 99% hit rate, which is great. They issued me a refund. Um, and we got back 1,082 hits. So
Mhm.
you think about that one hit, how it has, five numbers and five relatives, and each relatives has, phone numbers for that too. This is, a lot of phone numbers to market, a lot of individuals to market. So if we think about
Mhm.
the time and energy to perform all of that research and then get accurate data too. This is, I mean, I don't know any other skip tracing site that even compares to this. And I've tried, the large ones like TLO and, other providers that are really
Yeah.
expensive. And I was noticing, hey, this is the same data on Ben Verified. This is the same data on True People. It's like, what's going on right
Yeah.
now?
Yeah, exactly. And you know, that's the difference is that there is regulated data and then there's
Mhm.
unregulated data. So a lot of people they've never even heard those terms before. It's not even something that is widely known or taught, especially in niche industries such as like surplus funds or real estate. Those are kind of terms that you hear when you're in the data industry. So regulated data is like TLO data, where it has like social security information. It's more meant for private investigators, police, military, credit, like debt consolidation, stuff like that. So you're getting a lot of information that is sensitive and is not meant for marketing purposes. And that's
Mhm.
why it's actually not even legal
Yeah.
now. It used to be, but it's not anymore to purchase data from TLO for marketing purposes. And marketing could also be like, hey, I'm calling to help you, where I'm going to make money off of it, helping you. So you're not even having to solicit a product, you're just soliciting the
Oh,
help, and it's technically marketing. So just doing that. So TLO data is definitely a great area. If you're getting TLO data, be very careful, because if you get audited, it's definitely dangerous. So what we are considered is unregulated data. So we're getting it from public sources. We're getting it from multiple millions of different points of access and entry. So it's updating constantly. It's an ever changing door of data coming in and out and being updated. Um, and the the data that we provide is complicit with, or like is within compliance of marketing purposes.
Mhm.
So we've had people compare our data to companies like TLO, and even then at times it's better, because what TLO, we actually had this guy, he he had a very small list and he ran it with us, and he goes, I compared your results to my preferred data service, and you are coming back with an address that this person doesn't even live at, and I don't understand where you're getting it from, because it's completely wrong. And I took over the account, because when these type of things come up, I want to make sure they're being done very strategically. And we are also, me, my husband, we're the people that are going to go and know all the sources of like how to find these things to prove that like what we're finding is legitimate. So um, I took the account and I started kind of digging into the address. And what ended up happening was his preferred data source was TLO, and he showed me what they were giving him. And I looked up the address that we gave back to him. And what ended up happening was the address wasn't even recorded like in Google. It was a brand new plot of land that had just been recorded with the county assessor's office. And it had not even been built on yet, but he was receiving mail to like the next door neighbor. And so this was brand new. That was his land, but he had just bought it like the week prior, and it was
Mhm.
not being recorded with TLO. And so we had to explain this to him, because he was looking up the address and it didn't even exist. But we had the capabilities of showing him, okay, like this is what happened on a county level. So this is what is happening. So we showed him that, and from that point moving forward, I mean, he was being kind of a Debbie Downer in the beginning. He was like complaining a lot and like thinking he was gonna try and get us like get us in a corner, and he was so mind blown. He is now solely with us, and it's great to see
Yeah.
stuff like that, because it's like, okay, so if you think our data is bad because a source is telling you that, where are they getting their information? Like
Mhm.
where who are they to tell you that we are wrong, right? And who are we to tell them that they are wrong? But the thing
Yeah.
is when you are testing the data,
And
data
show
is
where it came
numbers.
from.
It's
Mm.
science. It's the world is ran by data, right? And numbers. So if you test it side by side compared to all of the big conglomerates of data industry titans, you take a company like ours and you take all these other companies that are kind of taking advantage of people's ignorance, and pricing something at a premium level, but serving you a very, very below subpar level data product, you're going to see a vast difference. And you're going to also make your money back a lot faster with a company that has more data points, better customer service, more knowledgeable support staff. The data is actually accurate. It's being pulled from multiple sources, and our in-house cost is much higher than what other people are getting their data at. It's kind of shameful, to be honest, to see what these people are charging and what they're making, and it's really sad.
Yeah. Well, I can see you're definitely passionate about data.
Oh,
That's all.
absolutely.
Yeah. So we had Cheryl ask a question. Can we create an account or
Yeah.
do we have to go through an intro? I guess she means input a submission every time.
Yes, so it's a la carte. So we don't ask for any contracts. There's no subscription fees. There's nothing like that. It is based on a per order basis. So anytime you need us, we'll be there. But right now, it is not a SaaS product. You don't have to put in any type of credit card or anything like that unless you are purchasing the actual product. So yes, that is the only thing we ask you to do, but that is the only thing you have to do is just provide us with who you are, how to contact you, where to send your file, and what files you want us to process. After that, everything is easy peasy, lemon squeezy. We do everything for you, and that's all we ask you to do.
Yeah, so Victoria said no contracts. That's correct. We can use
Yeah.
Skipmatrix whenever we need or want to. Yes. And we can also use the spreadsheet to import into CRM. Yes. So
Yeah.
the spreadsheet that I have, guys, for you, that's the Skipmatrix template with the surplus funds information. If you're in the Facebook group, I'm going to repost it. It's already posted. If you're in the YouTube chat, shoot me an email. You guys know my email, and then I'll be able to share that with you guys as well. So now you've shared a lot of great information. Guys, if you have any questions that are in the Facebook group, you guys can either raise your hand or hit unmute and ask your question.
Yeah.
If we
I'm
have
so
any.
sorry to hear that, Kenneth.
Sometimes they get shy and they don't like to ask
Yeah.
questions.
Hi, Shay.
Yes. Hi.
Hi. I had a quick question for you. I mean, you answered some of it before with the different types of data, which is great. I guess my question has to do more with the output. Is there any way to customize the output? I know for like Eric has that spreadsheet that he uses, and then we could import it into the different CRMs. If we had a format that we needed done, is it possible to have the data come back in different formats, or is it just that format and then we have to manipulate it later?
So this is what I always suggest to people when they ask this question, because we don't want to touch the file after it's been exported from our system just because of human error possibility. We don't want anything getting touched and messed up in any capacity because it can happen. So what I do suggest is we use AI a lot. This is something that it's been used in our system and business every single day. I highly suggest that if you have a specific data set that you want to work with, let's just say like it's the owner information, 3 phone numbers and 1 email for the owner and like 2 relatives. Let's just say that. And you want specific rows and or specific columns. I would say to use ChatGPT 4.0, go into ChatGPT, thoroughly explain. I can actually send you a link also to what's called, here, I'll pull it up actually right now. It's called Prompt Wizard. My husband actually made this, believe it or not. I can send this over to you. It's amazing. So I put it in the chat. So this is a link to what's called Prompt Wizard. You kind of just put in your words what you want it to do, and Prompt Wizard will create an in-depth, thorough prompt for ChatGPT so that it is structured in a way that makes it deeper, and it can create a macro for you for Excel. So what's going to happen, it's going to create a code. It can walk you through on how to import the macro into Excel. And this way you can install the macro into Excel, and every single time you can just hit 2 keys and it will format the entire list for you in the blink of an eye. It's very easy. And if you need more help, please email me. I'm more than happy to help you. But this is probably one of the easiest ways to do it, because we are always going to send back the data in the exact same way as you send it to us. So like, it's going to be in the exact same format unless you add extra columns that are different all the time. That's the only way it can get a little messy. But if you have the exact same amount of columns, the exact same information every single time, it will divvy it up for you in the exact way every time with a macro. So that makes it super easy, very consistent, and clean. So if you need help with that, let me know, but you would have to do it yourself.
Yeah.
We don't do it
Also,
for you.
all the list that you give them, it just needs to have what they need to pull their data, but what you have beforehand, like what I created with all the surplus information, you can create your own, columns as well, because there's people who do like wholesaling. They have different columns than us. They want to know the square feet, they want to know the bath, so they have
Yeah.
different columns before the actual skip tracing data comes about. So you can create whatever type of template you want as long as you have what they need. It doesn't have to be the exact one that I have.
Yeah, exactly. And also you might want to end up using, like, for instance, we have a deceased column. So
Mhm.
you may need the relatives that you leave out or the associates that you leave out for that niche list. So you may be able to contact and do a completely different marketing strategy for the people that are alive, that are within a certain age bracket and alive. And then you can filter out the people who are deceased and go and do a different marketing tactic with that. And that might be a different format for each, but at least the information is there for you to use. And that's where, the policy comes in of like, we don't touch the data, because if we accidentally deliver it back to you without that information, then you're being gypped, honestly, for what you're paying for, because what you're paying for is for the 480 columns of the data, right? So we don't want to.
Cheryl asks, do you guys provide information for businesses as well? Like, do you skip trace entities?
Yeah, this is a great question. So we do have a process for that, but it's not in the way that you traditionally think skip tracing businesses would go. So for trusts and LLCs, there is a veil that is a corporate veil of protection. That's why it's kind of difficult to get a hold of these people. So the loophole that we have found is a lot of times these businesses, yes, they're under, I am a business LLC guise, but their mailing address has a personal, like, individual with a private first and last name that has received mail at that address at least once. So if it's not like the most corporate, crazy building that has 1 million people receiving mail there, which is kind of rare, you're going to find that that person either has a PO box or a mailing address that is their actual residence. We will reverse search that mailing address, obtain the the person that comes up on top, that is associated with that mailing address, obtain their first and last name, and then reverse skip trace them. So you're getting the top person's information. If they are not the actual owner themselves, they will be closely related to or understand who you're trying to get a hold of. But I do suggest that you approach these leads differently, because if you're going in hot asking about the property first, they're probably not going to know what you're talking about. So I would suggest to first go in asking about the name of the company first, so that you can establish that familiarity and know who you're talking to. Then once you get the right person on the phone, you can then move into talking about the property.
Perfect.
If you're talking about the property.
Breakdown. Yeah, that was a great breakdown. Carol said, do you have to have a CRM in order to use Skipmatrix? Is it good for newbies? So no, you don't need to have a CRM. You can take the data and just use your phone and manually call and dial. It's great for newbies.
Absolutely.
It's also great for, experience, with CRM, whatever you want to use.
Yeah, to be honest, if you're a newbie and you use our data, it is going to be the best thing for you. Because I
Mhm.
feel like people who are new to the industry, they buy into an affiliate who's not even using the product they're promoting and what they're selling, and then they go to a cheaper data source that is still pricing even more
Yeah,
expensive than our
and I
data
promote
is.
you guys because I use it. Like I
Yeah,
wouldn't be
yeah,
doing this
I
call.
know.
I
And
tell you guys
that
I
was
use it. Yeah.
crazy. Yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, and it's been a year now since you've been using our data, and like the way that we got connected for you to start representing us was kind of an accident. It like just naturally happened, which was amazing and very serendipitous. But I'm very happy that you're representing us, because that is actually a huge policy of ours. Is we are not open enrollment for affiliate partnerships, and you have to be an active customer before you even represent us, because I want to know that you believe in the data, that you're using this data, and that you know what you're doing with the data before you go and just start selling it to people, because it's a lot. It's a complex product. It's very robust. And if you don't know what you're talking about, you're going to misinform people. And I'm not about that. So that is where our ethics just kind of come into play with that. Like, we don't want to water down our product and brand just for sales. That's not what we're about. So I love what you're doing, and I love that you are genuinely like such a huge fan of
Yeah.
Skipmatrix, because it makes it easier for people to understand and ask questions about the data, because
Mhm.
you personally use it, you know.
Use it exactly.
But newbies, they'll go out and leave somebody who's selling them snake oil, and it's not their fault. It's really not their
Yeah.
fault, but they don't understand how this industry works, and they'll buy something, and they get a bad first impression, and then that impression leads to them quitting or not
Yeah, because
feeling like this is as
yeah, it
easy as it
happens.
should
I
be.
see comments all the time. They're like, oh, I find the leads on the county site, but all of the phone numbers
Mm-hmm.
don't work. And, this
Yeah,
business doesn't work. And I'm like, well, I just posted myself gonna do I just posted a student success story. So it
yeah,
clearly works. It's just that you're getting bad data.
yeah.
So you need to
Yeah,
get,
if you show up to your construction job with a hammer made of plastic, what do you think is going to
yeah,
happen? You're going to be like, this job
yeah,
sucks. This is that
exactly.
nothing is working. It's
Yeah,
broken. This is not good. Your tools are everything. If you
facts.
show up to any job and your tools aren't the best of the best, you're not going to perform your best. It's going to feel harder. Like, there was actually a video today of it's a stupid analogy, but there was a guy who was going down a slope doing snowboarding, and this guy was literally walking with his board, because the board that he had was a rental. It was cheap, and it was too sticky to go down the snow. And so he was walking with his board down a slope. And this guy stopped, gave him his board, and taught him how to snowboard. And now he was flying down the hill by himself with a good board. It was about the board. It wasn't even about the ability of the person, but he was going slower down the slope because he had a bad tool. And that is the same thing that's going to happen if you don't have good data, if you don't have good mentors, if you don't have good information, and if people are just kind of selling you snake oil and selling you a product, promising the world, but they don't even know what it is that they're even selling. A lot of these companies, they don't know anything about the thing that they're selling you. They just want to
Mhm.
make money, and it's really
Yeah,
sad. So that's where we wanted to come in and like be a breath of fresh air and change that for
perfect. Does anybody else have any other questions?
sure. I won't bite, I promise. Ask
Yeah.
away.
Yeah, just quick question. Just awesome, by the way. I've used Skipmatrix and the data is pretty accurate. Um,
Awesome.
but just to double check and to reiterate from earlier. So let's say, for example, I only have 15 contacts that I want to skip trace and I insert them in the system. That'll be still a flat $15, correct?
Yes. So it is a flat $15 fee, or $14 in your case, because you'll use his code. But yes, we do
Hmm.
charge us a flat $14 fee.
No worries. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Hi, Kenneth. Hi.
Hi there. Before we submit leads to you to get more data, should we clean them up first? For example, go through, for example, the county and find out have they been claimed on yet? Is that the best idea, or
Like cleaning them up, meaning like the formatting of the names and the addresses.
No,
No,
I
he
mean, a lot
means
of the
to check
information
to
I
see
get
if a
from,
claim, yeah,
right,
check, you want to check and see if a claim has been submitted or not.
right.
My strategy is when I view the properties that sell for a higher amount, and I know that there's a potential surplus, I'm going to throw that in the skip tracing and then communicate with the client, figure that information out. Because if we spend a lot of time doing due diligence prior to even marketing, you might perform all of this time and research, checking for liens, checking to see if a claim has been filed, and then you may not get a hold of the client. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that, but I've found, more success just blast marketing all the properties that sell for a higher amount. Once we get a hold of them, we say, okay, we're going to go and verify your file. I reach out to the county or I check in the portal or the docket to see if a claim has been submitted. If it comes back that there's liens or somebody already took over the claim, then I inform them and, they don't pay any upfront fees. But
Mhm.
that is my strategy. There's so many different ways to skin a cat. If you find yourself more
Yeah.
by going in and saying, you know what, hey, there was 100 properties that sold for a higher amount, and I see that 30 of them have liens and it may not be a good fit, or maybe there's already some claims. So let me just take the extra hour, 2 hour to go and perform that research, and then now send that data to Skipmatrix, and now you're working with
Mhm.
verified. So I think it's
Mhm.
more going to be a personal preference. I've shared my strategy, but I do know people who do the research beforehand so that they only target qualified leads.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I got another question. Um,
Sure.
for Skip Matrix, when we get our data back, we get cell phone numbers and landlines, right? So
Yes.
what if you have the option of only requesting only cell phone numbers? Would that pricing change, or do you have the capability of doing that?
No, so it would be the same. So we don't only charge based off of phone type, because what's going to happen is we would have to go in and change our entire system the way that it works, and it's not something that we do just because. If you also want to use the landlines, you can, but that's why we separate the mobiles and the landlines for you. So you have the ability to target only phone lines that are mobiles. So that's available to you. But we are going to always, no matter what, even if you ask us to only give you 3 data points, we are always going to deliver what you're paying us for. So even if you only want mobiles, we're going to give you the landlines too, just in case, because you may want to change up and switch up your marketing tactic. You may not have a way of getting a hold of someone outside of a landline. Sometimes these people are old and they don't use their phone, and they probably don't even have a mobile phone number. Phone 1 and 2 and 3 are not even mobile phone numbers. They're probably landlines. So there's so many reasons why we would make sure that you keep both phone types in there. But if you do only want mobiles only, we provide those two separate for you as a courtesy in your results file.
Thank you. And one follow-up question to that. For
Mhm.
the phone type I see other, I've seen that recently. Is
Yeah.
how is that pinpointed?
So sometimes it could be like a VoIP, like a Google Voice, or sometimes it can even be a pager, believe it or not. And also it could also just be like a phone number that somebody put in that it just hasn't been identified by the sources that we've used. It's very rare.
Mhm.
But it is possible to get that tag in there. But you can just call it and find out and see if it's a working number for you. And we do scrub out inactive phone numbers by default. So every phone number you get is deemed as an active phone number at the time of scrubbing.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
And last thing I wanted to share, guys, in order to determine if the data is accurate or not, you do have to mark it correctly, because like for those who are in the Facebook group, I recently posted a claim that we got in Tennessee where we did 5 messages until the client responded. So we had the initial message, initial email, we had a voicemail drop, we had a text message, and then it had a delay, and then it had a follow-up message, and then it had the final reach out, and then the client supplied their email address, and then we ended up getting the client under contract and we're submitting our claim.
Mhm.
But if we only targeted that client one time, or called them one time, or just text them one time, we can't truly see, hey, is this the correct person? Because how many times do you guys receive a phone call and you don't answer that phone? And then
Yeah,
there's some people who
absolutely.
market in this business and they don't even text them. So, I'm huge on
Yep.
automation, like use the CRM, because if you can send automated follow-up 5-day sequence, and you're going to get a higher percentage
Mhm.
to actually get the client on the phone, rather than just
Yep.
calling once, oh, this data sucks, and then you move on. But hey, you just called them
Mhm.
one time, like they don't know you, they don't know your
Yeah,
number, they're going to answer. So you have to market.
exactly.
Hmm.
Exactly. And contrary to popular belief, skip tracing is not a phone number service. We
Hmm.
are in the business of finding people
Hmm.
at any level. So an accurate accuracy rate, right? Because there's hit rate and then there's accuracy rate. It is very subjective as far as the way that you go about like actually marketing and testing these variables. So I
Hmm.
see, there's people that are like, this data just isn't accurate. Like I'm not getting any, I'm not getting any connections. So
Hmm.
the first question I'll ask is, okay, how are you coming to that conclusion? Like, what are you experiencing to come to the conclusion that you are not getting good data, right? And they'll go, oh, well, I only called about 15 people on phone one. And I'm like, okay, well,
Hmm.
that's fine. Because
Yeah.
you're calling phone one, which sure, it's got the strongest possibility and probability that it is the most important phone number, but we have a ranking system. So phones 1 through 5 is in chronological order from the most important to the least important. But if you notice, there is a last seen date on the phone numbers. So you'll see the last time that phone number has been seen by a source, and it's ranked at the top of the list because it's been seen more by sources. So, but the last one, the fifth phone number, could have the earliest and most recent, actually, most recent last seen date, but it's number 5. And why is that? It's probably because it's only been seen 1 or 2 times by sources because it's a brand new phone number. So it could be the most reliable. But if you're not using all of those data points, if you're not going and actually using what you're paying for, every single avenue, email, mailing, phone number, we even provide IP addresses. So if you wanted to do digital targeting, you could do that too, specifically those people and their IP addresses, their relatives, their associates, all that information. You don't know what the accuracy could be because you're missing out on the accurate data point. That could, because if you called all 120 points of contact for someone who's deceased and off the grid, and it was just very hard to get a hold of somebody, but on relative 5, you got a hold of somebody, that is an accurate record. But you're
Facts.
not seeing that point because you're not even moving past phone 1 or
Yeah.
2.
Yeah.
So you have to take all of these things into consideration and understand that data, it's not always ever, it's never going to be 100% accurate,
Exactly.
but it's
Hmm.
also very, very subjective as to how deep you're going, what times of the day you're calling, what days you're
Yeah.
calling, what avenues you're taking to market. There are
Yeah.
so many variables, but that's why we give you so much to work with, because we don't want you to miss an opportunity. So very important, very subjective, but accuracy is
Yeah.
definitely something that we focus on.
Exactly. Awesome. Well, that's all the time for today. I'm pretty sure we could talk about this for hours. I can definitely see that you're passionate about this, and we appreciate you guys. Let's just go ahead and give it up for Cheyenne for sharing this information. We definitely appreciate you.
No problem. I'm going to send you guys this Notion document I've been sending to people if they have questions about the data. You're welcome, you guys. If you have any questions about the data. So this is a Notion document that we put together. It's called Skipmatrix 101. It's literally just everything you can possibly think of, from the data points to just key ways to market to the data, how to use the data, what each data point is, things like that. It's very it's a knowledge base. It's very important for you to know that stuff if you're going to use our service. So if you have any questions, let me know, but we also have a help center. So if you have any questions, you can use on our website a Skipmatrix AI chatbot you can ask it any question and it'll fetch from our data center and our help center anything that you can possibly think of. It'll answer you very accurately. So it's pretty cool. But we're also available Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern time. If you need anything else, let me know.
Awesome. And then if you guys submit your files, make sure to use the code